Hey everybody, back again, and today we're taking this huge rasp here and we're going to be making a massive kukri knife.
First things first, we got to remove all of those teeth from that rasp so that way I don't end up creating accidental cold shuts, and cut off the excess as well as cut in what will become the tip ultimately for this billet.
So we've got our billet cut out, we've got all of that, the teeth on the rasp side removed, as well as all the teeth on the file side. We did leave some of the patterning in there because we do want this to come out in the blade and a little bit of this on the other side. It's going to be a pretty interesting looking blade with the two different looks on either side because it's not a double-sided rasp. But this is going to eventually become something like this. This is an Indian kukri knife. It says India right down there. So if you look at it closely, you can still see the hammer marks. I don't know how well they're going to show up on camera, but there's rippling in the blade from hammer marks. So this tells me it's hand forged. It's a beautiful example. It's got pins and rivets and bronze work everywhere. It's got a split ended tang, all kinds of craziness going on with this thing. But what I'm going to try and imitate with this is this blade. The blade itself is what I'm going after. I'm going to do my own style of handle on this. It is going to be that same hourglass kind of shape because that is traditional to these. I've made a smaller kukri with a through tang before, but today we're going for the big boy.
So first we're going to get the warp out of this and just get it straightened up before we start working it. Now we can start to form that somewhat hourglass shape for the handle, as well as get the right length we want for that hourglass shape. The handle on the original kukri knife is 5.5 inches, so we're going to draw the hourglass shape down and get enough length to where it's 5.5 inches when forged. To get this long enough, what I did is I forged the rough hourglass shape I wanted, then used the cross peen to draw out the length, then just took the marks from the cross peen out after I was close to the length I wanted. That way I ended up at the right length for it. Now that I'm happy with the length of the handle, I can draw out the top section of the hourglass and start thinning it up where it's going to transition into that hollow ground area of the knife. Now I'm going to use the cross peen again to get some length out of that area while thinning out that whole section that's going to be hollow ground. So now I can start to profile the lower section and the spine of the lower section of the blade, give it that curvature for when we bend it over, so that way it has almost a recurve shape in that hollow ground area. With that accomplished, we can start to bevel the entire rest of the blade and draw the width out of the entire top section. The blade profile on the kukri, the original, was quite odd to me. The first 3 inches of the blade where it starts to grow goes from 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and then after that, over the course of a further 9 inches, it grows and shrinks to 2.5 inches and then back down. I did forge it to this size, but I ended up forgetting that I needed more width because, grinding kind of removes material. And if you can't tell by now, I'm not making the traditional style tip on this. I'm making more of a Bowie knife tip to it with a clip tip, just because I like that profile better and I think it would look really good on a knife like this. You might wonder why I'm smacking it on the face of my anvil, but this is to straighten the entire spine. I have to get the blade completely straight before I can bend it forward. At this point, the kukri kind of looks like a gigantic Bowie knife, but we'll fix that here in a second once we start putting that forward curvature into it, and it kind of assumes that kukri knife shape. Basically, a kukri knife is nothing more than a massive Bowie knife bent over. It's pretty hysterical to me. Now we're going to use the part on the horn that matches the radius of our curved area, and heating just the small area that's going to be hollow ground, we're going to time and time again tap it on the horn and flatten it back out, and tap it on the horn and flatten it back out until we have a 5-inch forward lean on that point from the spine. Now all that's left is to punch the holes for the handle pins and make sure everything's straight before we get to grinding. So we've got our rough grinding done after our whole ordeal of forging this. As you can see, I gave this one a clipped point just because I like that design a little better, but they are identical lengths, same curvature. There is a straighter line on the spine on this one, but that's fine. I can knock this down a little bit to straighten that line up. The handle shape is a little off on this. I still need to grind a little more on this guy, and I still need to do a little bit more polish work, obviously, and cleanup work. This is going to have a pretty rough forged look. Since it did come from a file, it's going to have lots of rasp on one side, so it's going to be quite a wild looking thing by the time it's done. But yeah, that's where we're sitting right now. I'll get back to you guys here in a sec once I've done some more of the polish work. So I've got all of my rough grinding done now, and as you can see, same size blades, just that clip point is the only difference. So now I've just got to do the handle on this after I heat treat it. So I'm going to heat treat it, get it quenched, get it tempered, and then I'll be back to you guys once I'm on to the next step. Stay tuned. You're wondering where the blade is? It's in here. This is my makeshift little straightening jig. So basically I throw anything I heat treat in here when I quench it, so that way it stays straight after the quench and I don't pick up any warps. I couldn't quite fit the whole thing in here because it's only a few inches wide and the blade is kind of on that crazy angle that kukris are known for. But I'll get back to you guys once this is all cooled down and I can handle it. So, we've got our blade out of the heat treat oven. We've got our kukri blade all ground, all cleaned up. Got the edge on there, shined up the bevel on, well, not the whole bevel, but the base of the bevel. And this is going to be a black blade with a clip tip. So the only difference between the two is the clip tip. As you can tell, they're just about the same size. Curves are identical, except for that tip. And then handles are going to be different. This does have a fuller. I'm not going to be putting a fuller in this because it is already light enough, as it is significantly thinner. It's still got plenty of thickness to do the job it needs to, but it is a little thinner. So it is going to be a little lighter of a kukri. This is the original Gurkha kukri. It's a Indian-made, hand-forged. You can see the rippling in there on the reflection from the hammer marks. This one I wanted to have dark. So if you guys like what you see and you want to see me put the handle on this and test it, go ahead and hit like and subscribe and all that jazz, and leave a comment down below telling me what you think of this knife right here in comparison to this knife right here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. God bless. Love you guys. And if you're looking for a custom knife, check me out on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/hookersblades. God bless.